Hey guys, how you doing? It's me, your buddy Gabe El Taib. It's a wonderful Thursday morning. I'm having such a great week. I'm so happy to have you guys, and I have a great guest today. He's been around, I think, for about 100 years in this business. Kidding, but it's Andy Smith, and we're going to be looking at First Man, and we're going to be looking at his great long career he's had at the Big Two and other companies. So here he comes. Put your hands together for the. I almost hit remove. Andy Smith, how you doing? But that would have been some boomer crap.
What's up, brother man?
I'm doing good. Have another king here with me. How do you feel about being called the Comics Gate King? I like the silliness of it. You like it?
I do. I love that. I love the Monday. I look forward to that Monday night. I look forward to Monday night and Thursday night because Thursday's when the professionals goes, and then Monday night with all you guys filling up the room on Ethan's channel with like 10 of us and just shooting shit. And it's a great way to start the week. So, and then if my Monday isn't as spectacular as I want it to be, it's a good way to end a Monday.
Right. Yeah. I think this Monday, I'm only new to this, right? I've been around about 2 months with you guys, but the energy this Monday was amazing. I think that whole thing Ethan did where we were showing our work like we were in grade school, I think the fans really loved that. And I thought it was really fun. And it motivated me.
I think that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, I'm drawing and inking today some more pages of my book, and I can't wait to show them on Monday, actually. So, that's really fun doing with that, and I'm glad you guys are welcoming me in. So that's why I want to have you on to help out with First Man and this and that. But can we go over a little bit? Like, I've known your name since I was young and seeing it, and I always saw you associated with Bart Sears for some reason. I think you have a similar sensibility in your artwork. Do you know him? Do you work with him? Was he a mentor of yours? How did you get into comics, I guess? Let's go back to the beginning. Of Mr.
I've known Bart for let me do the math here, 31 years.
Wow.
So I always drew as a kid, like all of us do, and then I always say, I have a daughter who's 18. I know you have kids.
Right.
Every kid, around 2 or 3 picks up a pencil and likes to draw, but unlike most kids, we don't stop. Whereas my daughter grew out of it. She's like, I'm done. Move on to different things, which I believe most kids do. Most kids try it, and then they go, oh, now there's video games, or now there's this, or I really like to read, or I like music, or whatever. And then they bounce to something else. But for guys like us, we just keep doing it. It's this thing that is just inside of us, and we have to do it. Like, I can go. There was a time where I drew every day. Now I don't draw every day anymore. Like, honestly, if I can take a Saturday and Sunday off, I will.
Right.
I have a family and stuff, whatever. But for the longest time, I just had to draw every day. And it's still to a point where, Saturday and Sunday, like I said, if I can afford to take it off time-wise, I will. But let's say we go on a vacation for like 6-7 days, I'll get antsy after a certain amount of time of not drawing. You'd be like, I got to draw something.
I hear you on that. So we're going back to being a young kid drawing, Andy. What book was it? I can tell you what it was for me. It was X-Men #1 by Jim Lee. There was also like a role-playing game with the Thing and Blastar on the cover, and I found it like 30 years later and bought it. But it was like a little, I think like a Dungeons and Dragons module or something for Fantastic Four versus Blastar. And I remember those as a child, those two things, and a Silver Surfer annual by Mark Bagley from like 1988, Atlantis Attacks. What book was it for you that like you saw it and said, "Oh my God, I love it"?
It was Captain America 275.
I'm a little younger than you. Which one is that? I'm going to Google it and try and find the cover. But tell us.
Captain America 275. Let me see. I might actually. Well, yeah, you can go. You'll probably find it faster than me. I thought I had a shot of it still on my desktop. Oh, I do.
Okay.
Hold on. I can just share my screen.
Okay.
Hold on a second here, and I will.
Don't boomer yourself. Yesterday, I started the show with my microphone off. Yesterday, it was quite amazing.
I'm not a boomer. I'm too young to be a boomer. Boomers end in, if I remember correctly, the boomers end in 1963. So I was born after that.
Yeah. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Who drew that there? That's
nice. Mike Zeck, baby.
I was going to say, is that a Mike Zeck face? Like the face was feeling like Mike Zeck to me.
That is That is Mike Zeck and John Beatty. And well, this came out, I'm looking in 1982. It says November, so that means it was on the stand in September of 82. So I was 12 at the time when I found this book.
Okay.
And I was just walking home from school, and there was a 7-Eleven on the way home. That's a convenience store. They're out there, aren't they? 7-Elevens?
Oh, yeah,
7-Elevens out there?
There's plenty of them.
Yeah, okay. So 7-Eleven was a convenience store that we'd walk by, and this is back in the day of the big console games where you pop the quarter in, and we would always stop in and play Donkey Kong and Galaga.
All right.
And
that's one thing I feel sorry for the young kids out there. You're reminiscing about your love of arcades, and you're exactly right. I loved that stuff. I loved. I'm a little younger. I'm 43. I'm guessing you're about 50 or so, or
52.
Okay, so just a little older. We had like Double Dragon and Shinobi and Spy Hunter and Gauntlet. Do you remember Gauntlet? That thing would just eat your quarters.
Oh yeah, and the 7-Eleven, our 7-Eleven had two games next to each other. It had Galaga and it had Donkey Kong. And we do the thing where you pop the quarters up, so it's like I'm next,
right?
And I remember waiting and looking at the magazine rack, and all the magazines were lined up, but in the lower right-hand corner of the rack, it was, and the rack was it was the same height as the counter,
Okay.
And the rack on the lower right-hand side was just comics. And I remember seeing this cover going, whoa, and picking it up and looking at it, just being like, holy crap.
So I bought it. It's like, what is that symphony that they play in romance movies where that and the people run across the field and embrace? It's like you see that one comic when you're 10, 11, or 12, and it's love at first sight.
That's how it was
for X-Men #1 for me. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it.
And see, when X-Men #1 came out, I was actually in the Kubert School. Oh, wait, what year did X-Men 1 come out?
It was either 91 or 92. I can't believe I don't remember exactly anymore.
You know what? I wasn't. I already graduated when X-Men #1 came out. So
really?
I was buying Jim Lee's X-Men stuff because I remember buying it, but it was still when he was on Uncanny. So it was before that.
How great is that Uncanny 275 with the gatefold cover where they're on the Shi'ar or the Shi'ar planet saga? That's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah. I have that. I traced that one in 8th grade and tried to tell my friends that I drew that spread on my own looking at it. So I did. I have to admit, I did some tracing in the 8th grade.
But when you're a kid, I mean, I tell kids now a great way to learn is tracing. I just tell them never try to pass it off as your own. But as a learning tool, tracing is fine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
so I went to the Kubert School, and in my senior year is when I met Bart, because Bart was teaching there in that senior year. He didn't teach. The thing was, though, he didn't teach third-year students, which I was. I was a senior. He was only teaching second year, but I was already collecting Justice League Europe, and I was a big fan of his work, and I was like, man, I don't care if this dude's teaching second year or not, and not my class. I'm going to meet this guy because I go to the school, and it's not a big school. So I just introduced myself to him, showed him some of my work, and, I guess he took a liking to it because he kind of, we became friends. He kind of took me under his wing. That's his variant cover.
Yeah. You must have learned a lot under him, because when I saw this on your campaign page, and this is his Indiegogo guys that we'd love you to fund, but we'll get to that. I didn't know this was a Bart Sears variant until I read under it and it said that. So he must have taught you a lot, because your styles are similar. They're fantastic.
Well, and it's true. They are. And in the early 90s, when I first broke into the business, they were a lot more similar. And it's one of those things I like to tell people, because, a lot of people don't know that I'm friends with the guy.
Right.
And I've known him since I was a student. He helped me break into the business and stuff.
Okay.
So, I would show him work, show him my pencils and stuff I was working on for school assignments. And he would put tracing paper over the stuff, just like Joe Kubert would do and other teachers. And he'd put tracing paper over it and be like, oh, this is cool, but I find if you do this, it makes it cooler. So it wasn't necessarily like, I think he saw my stuff that I was like right at the edge, ready to break in. But he was like, let me help you with the kind of cool factor, I guess you could say. So while he was giving me drawing tips, like, oh, this leg might be too short, whatever, it was also finishing stuff too. So he'd be like, try this could be cooler, try this, whatever. And so I like to use the example of like Brett Booth, right? Brett Booth is very Jim Lee when you look at his work.
Very, yeah.
And well, it kind of makes sense because if I remember correctly, Brett broke in at Wildstorm.
Yeah.
And, working under Jim. So it makes sense. So that's kind of like the analogy I use is it's like, well, when you have a guy like when I had Bart basically for 6-7 months kind of tutoring me, I would go over to his apartment after school and work on homework assignments while he was drawing Justice League Europe. In fact, I drew backgrounds in Justice League Europe. I drew buildings and stuff for him.
Oh, you were like ghosting for him, huh?
Yeah, I mean, no figures or anything. It was like, hey,
sure.
You want to draw these buildings? And I was like, hell yeah, I do. So, he roughed into perspective and was like, okay, these are how I draw buildings. So make them look like that. And then after I drew it, he would do some touch-ups to the stuff and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's, I think fans don't know there's more of that goes on than they know.
Yeah.
I know, but I won't say, but I know about some stuff where this guy, big name A-list guy, he doesn't draw any backgrounds. He draws characters and the background. I used to talk to the guy while he was drawing these backgrounds for this A-lister. So
sure.
But I don't think it's cheating. I think it's just efficiency,
It's a good way to break in and learn. I mean, when I was in my first year at the Kubert School, I was living in school housing, and one of the teachers, a guy by the name of Tex Blaisdell, who was an inker from the 60s and 70s, he would drive to the Kubert School, and he taught 2 days a week.
Okay.
So he would stay overnight on a cot in the basement of the housing I was living in at the Kubert School, right? And this dude, it was the same age as Joe, maybe a year or two younger than Joe Kubert. So at the time, he was in his 60s. Right. And he had a cot in the basement of the school housing that we lived in. And after school, for the first day, he'd come over. He was actually inking backgrounds for Bob Smith at the time. And at the time, Bob Smith was inking Captain Atom over Pat Broderick and Starman over Tom Lyle. Once again, this is 1988 now. And so we'd sit around the kitchen table and he'd have those pages there inking the backgrounds for Bob. And I remember, he was looking at some of my stuff, and I started practicing inking with a brush probably when I was like 15. So 3 years before I went to the Kubert School.
Okay.
And I guess he saw that I was, pretty good at inking, and he was like, hey, you want to ink some backgrounds in this stuff? I was like, sure. So I inked some backgrounds in Starman. So Bob Smith's background guy had a background guy for a little bit. And I didn't do a lot. I inked like maybe 2 or 3 pages. So it's not like I did a ton.
No, it sounds like your whole college experience there at the Kubert School was like a real magical time. A lot of learning, a lot of opportunities, and a lot of great mentors. It sounds like you had a really positive, exciting time there.
Well, that's the nice thing about the Kubert School, and it is still one of the selling points behind it is, so when people ask me about the Kubert School, the biggest negative that I'll give to it is the fact that you do not, to this day, it's not a degree program. So it's not a bachelor's degree. It's not even a 2-year associate's degree. It's literally, and I have it. Oh, I can show it to you. Hold on. It's a diploma you get.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what the diploma looks like now because I graduated 30 years ago, but I have my diploma hanging up. I just took it off the wall. That's what it looks like.
Here, let me make you bigger there. There it is.
That is my Kubert School diploma signed by Joe. Pardon the glare because it is in a frame.
No, it looks good. You should be proud of that, man. That's awesome.
Oh, I am. And it sits right here on my windows. It used to hang up, but now I have it on my windowsill so I can see it in front of my computer.
Yeah. I have my college diplomas somewhere on a shelf and I never look at them. And I've actually tweeted at my university, they can have my diploma back for $5,000.
There you go. But so the thing at the Kubert School is it's not a degree program. However, all the teachers, none of the teachers, and as far as I know, this is still the case, none of the teachers are full-time.
Oh,
You know, they all are working artists and they teach part-time.
oh, okay. Okay.
So, you know, that's why, like I said, Bart Sears came in, he taught for 1 year and that was it. He taught for that year that I was there and that was it. Mark Pennington taught there. Kim DeMalder, I think, still teaches there now, but he didn't teach there when I was there. Tom Mandrake teaches there now. He didn't teach when I was there, but I did have Tom as a substitute. So some of the teachers do roll over after a few years, and then some have been there for a long time. Fernando Ruiz, who is known for Archie stuff,
right,
has been teaching there for maybe 15, 20 years now. But he still does art as his main gig.
Right.
So that's what's different. Like I taught at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, where I live, about 10 years ago for 2 or 3 years. And this is where the drawback is behind not getting a degree. You know, they were like, God, we'd love to have you teach here full time. And I was like, well, I can't do that because I have a full-time job drawing comics.
Right.
I appreciate it though. But even if I wanted to, I couldn't because I don't have a bachelor's degree.
Which is silly though, because you have a doctorate if they look at the stack of comics you've drawn. You know what I mean? Like,
and that's just it. I was teaching, like I can understand if you're at a college, you know, a university, and you're teaching history and math and stuff like that, going, we'd like to see a degree, you know, but I was teaching sequential art. I was teaching storytelling, you know, and at the time I did it, I was in the business for, it was like I said, it was about a decade ago, for 20 years, not 30. So it's like, guys, look at all this stuff I've done. And the guy above me, my boss, was like, look, I get it. If it was up to me, I'd hire you full time in a heartbeat, but it's not. It's the university rules, and it's not even university. It goes up to the funding level of, if a school, this is how it was explained to me. If a school basically offers a bachelor's and master degree, you have to have something like that to teach there. So another example is, you know, the Savannah College of Art and Design, right?
Right.
SCAD.
Yeah.
Well, I know teachers that teach there, but a buddy of mine, Tom Lyle, the guy that did Starman, he was the first artist I ever met when I was 15. Unfortunately, Tom passed away a couple years ago.
Oh, sorry.
But he taught at SCAD. But to do that, because I was like, oh my God, I would love to teach at SCAD. He had to go back to school. He already had a bachelor's degree, but they let him teach there while he had his bachelor's, but a part of the agreement was he had to go back and get his master's.
Ugh.
So he did.
It's silly. That's so silly. I guess those are rules. To me, it's like being in the NBA. They don't make you get a bachelor's or a master's. Like, they watch you play some basketball and they go, okay, he can do it. And like, you should just bring, I don't know, 2 or 3 feet of comic books stacked up. Go, there's my doctorate in drawing, genius. And,
and that's whatever. Like when I taught sequential art, it wasn't a how to draw class. It was a class on how to storytelling.
Right.
So, I had like 15 students in the class. It wasn't like one of those big lecture halls in colleges or anything. It was a classroom with drawing tables. I had, 15 students or so. And they all had to have the prerequisite of like drawing 1 and drawing 2 to get into the class. And man, some of the kids were great, but some of the kids, or students, I should say, because it was college. Some of the students, I couldn't believe even passed drawing 1, let alone drawing 2.
Let me ask you about that right there. Let me ask you something about that. I went to the University of Northern Colorado. I got a bachelor's in visual arts, emphasis in graphic design. One thing I noticed about art school, 2 things I didn't like. Most of the students there did not love art. Like you said, there's something God put in people like me and you where we kept drawing. And we love art. I say I love art as much as you can love a non-human being. I love it. I just love looking at it, touching it, making it.
Yeah.
And the other thing I noticed in school is a lot of the teachers were haters on comics. Now, you wouldn't have that experience at the Kubert School, but a lot of the teachers at my university, they were artsy, whatever. They didn't like illustrators and they didn't like comics, especially. And I was working professionally in college. I did the comic strips for my university newspaper, and I won all kinds of awards for my comedy writing. And they just always look down on comic books, and they're violent, and the women are sexy, and they were real grumpy about it. But tell me, did you find the students when you were teaching or anything, they didn't love art, they loved the idea of being a rock star and being praised? Because I found that.
No, I mean, the students I had, like I said, since it was only like 15 students per semester, so in total, I probably had 50 different individuals because, like I said, I only did it for like 3 years. They all wanted to do some type of art, whether it be storyboards, animation, comics, graphic novels, whatever. So they were all totally into it. But the funny thing was, because I would usually start off the first day of class, which was basically get to know the professor, because I was a professor. And it was show and tell. So for the first class, I would always do a PowerPoint or bring in work I did, my original art portfolio, so they can see it, tell them about myself, and I try to get to know some of the students. But I would always ask them, what do you want to do for a living? And I'd go around the room because, it was a small class and we had the time. And then once I went around the room and once everybody pretty much either said animation, storyboards, or comics, graphic novels, my next question was, why are you going here? And I know the school would hate it because this was a university. It was the University of North Carolina, Charlotte campus, right? So it's not an art school. It's a university. So I go, well, why are you going here? And a lot of them were, well, it's in town. I live here. So obviously in-school tuition is cheaper. They can drive there. They don't have to live on campus, blah, blah, blah. And then I tell them, I'd go, the reason I ask is because if you guys want to solely do this, why wouldn't you have looked into just a art school? And I tell them where I went, but I'd also say, there's SCAD, there's art institutes, there's art schools popping up all over the place now. So why are you going to a university where you have to take, other academics just to get a bachelor degree in art? You have to take
and getting all that insane debt too. My goodness.
Right.
So Bane Mahler's commenting on SCAD, saying, I wish I finished at SCAD rather than university because I would probably actually have connections rather than a useless degree. Sorry to hear that. But hey, it's never too late, Bane Mahler. You could still do whatever you want to do as long as you stick to the process, Yeah,
and getting connections these days is a lot easier because, as of right now, you're listening to us two, and in a way, we're a connection,
My DMs are open on Twitter and Insta. You can always show me things. I can't guarantee.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure mine are too.
Yeah, I can guarantee this. I'll look at your tweet. It doesn't mean I'll do anything with you or work with you, but I'll look at it.
Oh yeah, I give people advice and stuff.
Yeah.
But so anyhow, they took it seriously, but I would start institute once I saw that their drawing skills weren't really up to snuff. I would start every class going over some basic drawing type stuff. And my God, a couple of the students in every class would say, God, I never learned that in drawing one, or I never learned that here or this. And I'm just thinking to myself, how could you not learn this? This is basic stuff.
I found this. I went to a university, not an art school. And, I went through the whole art program, 4 years, and I have 3 professors, in my opinion, that had any credibility. Sure. My favorite guy, he retired because he's in his 70s now. His name is Seeger Hartgers. He was from the Netherlands. He was a professional artist for years in the Netherlands first. Then he got his American citizenship by joining the U.S. military back in the 80s or 90s. And he served in Desert Storm as a military artist. And he does all these great portraits. And there's portraits of generals that he's done that are in the Pentagon and all that. And he would show me all these watercolors he did of soldiers just in the field and all that. I didn't know the military had guys that were doing that.
Yeah, I didn't know that until after I graduated the Kubert School that you could have gone in, you can go into the military. I don't know if you still can, but
I bet you
at the time.
The government loves spending money, so I bet you can.
That's true. But, one of the guy that runs the program at the University of Charlotte, what he does is a freelance artist on the side, and he's been doing it for years, and he still does, is he actually designs, those memorable coins that you see that are really nice engraved and stuff. So basically, somebody has to do the artwork that's on like a quarter,
Yeah.
So he actually does designs for specialized coins. And I mean, they're usually just these really great pencil drawings, but you look at it and you think you're looking at almost a photograph of like a silver coin.
Sure.
That's how detailed his pencil drawings are.
Right. Yeah. I just what you were saying about your to go back to my friend Seeger and what you were saying about a lot of your students not having the art skills and being up to snuff. What I found was most of the professors were, and I'm just gonna say, they were like failed artists,
Mm-hmm.
They never that old, and it's mean, but there's some truth to it. Unfortunately, those who can't teach sometimes is true. And the professors, at least when I went to school, a lot of them, they didn't have the credibility, the credentials that I worked as an illustrator for 30 years and now I'm teaching, like my friend Seeger. A few of them were artists, but many of them were people who liked art and went to graduate school, then started being an assistant professor, and now it's been 30 years. And I see where the weakness in illustration, all that comes. I would take Seeger's life drawing class semester after semester, not just because the dancing girls from upstairs, the dance school, would be the models, but because if you guys have ever done like nude life drawing, you in the chat and you, Andy, you learn like bamboo growing. What you learn about the body and the way the muscles tuck in three-dimensionally and the bones, it's just, it blows your mind what you learn in that class. You learn things you totally had wrong in your head from looking at photos about the body. So, and I would take Seeger's class over and over. And I was a favorite of his because I can draw really well, like, most of us in this business. And he would look at the other students' art, and he was a no bullshit kind of guy. And he came up, because he's military, he came up to me and whispered in my ear, he's all, "Gabe, if you can't draw, are you even an artist?" And I was just like, yikes. So, I love Seeger, man. We would go to the Roma's Pizza there on 8th Avenue in Greeley, Colorado after class. And he would have Kolsch beer. He said, it's the only beer for a man, because it was from the Netherlands or something. And I don't know. He was a great professor. I miss him. He was a good guy. Good guy.
Well, it's funny. Our life drawing teacher, when I went to the school, and he was an older guy then, I'm pretty sure he's passed on since, was a guy named Ben Ruiz. And Ben was great. He was Puerto Rican.
All right.
And he would always try and crack jokes and stuff. And his when he would do life drawing in class as examples and stuff, you could tell that he was a student of Bern Hogarth, because his charcoal drawings look just like Bern's life drawing stuff. But I mean, he would say stuff like, I can't really do the accent, but he would see somebody doing lots of detail when they weren't really supposed to. And he goes, "Do you know what detail is?" And we'd all be like, and this only works the first time. We'd be like, "No, what do you mean what detail is? What are you talking about?" He goes, "Detail is what is on the end of the horse." We're like, "Oh, okay, I get that." But then like he's showing us how to draw like a rib cage and stuff. And then he just takes this weird tangent. I'll never forget this. He takes this weird tangent and he's talking about the space between the ribs and the sternum and stuff. And he's like, I can't stand it when you see in movies where somebody takes this little knife and they just stab somebody right in the chest. He goes, "Do you know how hard it is to stab somebody through their sternum with a little baby knife? And if you stab somebody in the ribs, you got to slide it in with the knife one way. And then once you get it in there, that's when you twist it." And we're just sitting there going, is this a life drawing class or what?
Yeah. I bet you helped him put some stuff in his trunk one day. You saw a bunch of rope and tape.
That's right. Like, I'll go to Home Depot with you, but what's the duct tape for?
Right.
Yeah, there you go. That's what his life drawings would look like.
Yeah. And this is Bern Hogarth for you guys in the crowd that were wondering. So, you help him out to his car and he asks you, does this rag smell like chloroform? No.
I know. What is this? He was a great guy though. But so I mean, getting back to starting in comics, it was like March of 1991 in my senior year, and Bart was like, "Hey, I'm going to drop some pages off at DC," because the Kubert School was about 45 minutes away from New York City, so DC and Marvel Comics. So he was like, you want to go with me and show your portfolio to some editors? I can introduce you. And I was like, sure, why not? So, I got a story about that, what that was actually for.
Okay.
So I
Yeah, I'm
went
just
up
gonna
there.
just let me interrupt. I'm just gonna have some of your work up here in the background, and you can just
Oh, yeah.
keep telling your story. So,
Well, okay, so real quick, a tangent. This was actually a private commission where I was contacted by, that says '08. So this was from 2008. So I was contacted by somebody through my website, and they said, hey, I'd like to commission you to do a drawing of my boyfriend as Superman, get the Vegas sign back there, blah, 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 whatever. Right. And I was like, okay. So, she wanted full color. So when I do that, they get the black and white art, but they also get a digital file so they can take it, print it, frame them together, whatever.
right.
So I actually colored that as well. So I did the drawing and I'm like, man, too bad this looks like just some normal dude. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a patch of how I draw Superman for the head so I can actually show it like a Superman thing.
Right.
So obviously this isn't the commission the girl got because it looks like her boyfriend.
Okay.
This is the redo where I redid the head so I could just show it on my website or whatever, wherever you grabbed it from. Because she wanted it to look like a fake comic book cover with him.
Oh, so that isn't real at all. I didn't even notice there's no month or anything, right? Yeah.
No, I just
wait,
did
there
that
is.
for fun.
There
And like I said, I took off the guys, whatever the guy really looks like her boyfriend, and drew Superman.
I've done that. I at last San Diego Comic-Con before they stopped him for COVID, a guy came up to me and had me commission him as Batman holding roses, and then his girlfriend's facing the camera and he's proposing to her. And I did her likeness, and I don't know. I was like, oh my God. And I just nailed the likeness. It was very satisfying. It sounds like you nailed it on. I'd love to see the likeness version of this if you can ever find it, but you don't have to look for it right now.
It's funny because there's a part on my website that is, I can't remember what the title is on my website, but the basic gist is private art or something like that, because I have a lot of people request, hey, make me into a superhero, or they'll say like this one, they'll say, can you do my husband or boyfriend or wife for that matter on Wonder Woman? Like I did one last year. This guy's wife is a teacher. She's a elementary school teacher, whatever, and she loves Wonder Woman. So he's like, could you draw her face and stuff on Wonder Woman and then put like a chalkboard behind her and write on the chalkboard what her name is and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh yeah, definitely. So, and then other times they just want me to make up, the other way I do it is I'll be like, tell me a little bit about your, the person here. Actually, I'll share the screen for this one.
Oh, okay. I was going to bring up your site, but if you have it.
Oh no, you can pull this one up. The screen shared.
Where I don't see it. Oh, here. Well, I don't see it. Where is it? This Truth, Justice, and that's a video. Oh, here it is down here. It was
there it is.
Okay.
So this was for a friend of mine, her boyfriend's dad, and his dad, and she wanted a custom hero. So I said, well, tell me something about him. So he likes the Carolina Panthers, the football team.
Right.
He has that type of dog. He likes to go fishing. So that's why I did him as a hero, with an electrified.
Oh, cool. And he's catching like some sort of merman kind of monster.
Yep. So
cool. Yeah, make it a little bigger because it's kind of small, if you can.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Oh, there you go. Nice.
So yeah, so he's catching this dude up here. And this is, I do color stuff every now and then. I just, don't do it a lot. So obviously I colored this too. So no harsh critiques there, Gabe. I'm in your wheelhouse now.
Okay. I won't go in there with my little red marker. And
don't beat me up. But anyhow, so like he drives this type of car. So I threw the car in for him.
That's a Maserati, right?
I think so.
That's one thing about living in Southern California, living in San Diego. You see exotic cars everywhere. It's very normal for me and my family to see Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Maseratis, just because living by the ocean, I guess there's some pretty wealthy people over there.
Oh yeah. And then, this is the Duke Power building that he worked at the time.
Oh,
And this is
wow. Okay, that's really personal. You got his work.
Oh, yeah. So this is from 2011.
Very cool.
And he likes to drink Pepsi. So that's actually a Pepsi can that he's holding.
Do you remember Pepsi Man, that weird faceless character? Pepsi Man. They did some ads with him in like the 90s or something. I'm pretty sure Travis Charest or someone at Wildstrom, that was a commissioned work from Pepsi to Wildstrom. I could be making that up, but I remember someone telling me that weird superhero Pepsi Man. They even made a bizarre Pepsi Man video game.
Really?
Yes, there was a horrific Pepsi Man video game.
That I don't actually remember, and I usually remember that stuff. But
hold on, got it right here. Got it right here. Yeah, and it was like a 3D runner. And the Angry Video Game Nerd did a whole video on Pepsi Man. Let me remove that there, and I'll just show you real quick. And you can show more of your commissions in just a second.
No, that's fine. I actually found the Superman one. So
yeah, that was the Pepsi Man right there. That's it. That's the video game for like the PlayStation.
Oh, no way.
Ridiculous. Yeah, there was a Pepsi Man. I don't know what that was about. So I don't know. If you want me to draw Pepsi Man, you want to pay me too much money, I'd do it, I guess. So
if you share the screen again, you'll see what the cover originally looked. Holy crap. That is
bizarre, right?
See, the funny thing is there is a section on my website called advertising, because I do work outside of comics, but obviously when people hire me, they hire me to draw comic book type stuff.
Right.
And I've always loved that stuff. And it's a shame because, when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, you still saw ads drawn in a comic book style, but now forget it. You don't see that crap anymore because they just use photos and garbage computer generated art. But, I've been lucky in my career that some places still like to do stuff like that because it's eye-catching and unique.
Right.
So I have done stuff like that, but I love stuff like that. But anyhow, this is their original cover, and
Okay.
She wanted the word balloon too, so
So I'll remove it and then I'll put it back. So this is the other one. I'll share this one, and I'll zoom that one, and then I'll show yours again. Okay. So that was yours there, and then we got this one instead. Okay. He looks a little like Nicolas Cage, this man, whoever he is.
So this is the first one that was supposed to be the actual guy. So
that's really cool, man, to do stuff like that for people. Like I told you, I've done the same thing. I've done commissions for people like that, where you're doing a likeness at least 2 or 3 times, I think. Not that often, but
yeah,
it's fun. It's fun.
It is. So yeah, so there's that.
Oh, Bane Mahler says a friend rented that game from Blockbuster Video. PS1 had some horrible games.
That's just amazing. I've never heard of that. Like I don't know if you saw. This was around Super Bowl 50, so 5 years ago, I think. The
greatest Super Bowl of all time, my Denver Broncos won it with Peyton Manning.
You know who they beat?
I saw your Cowboy shirt.
No, they played
that, and I saw the beatdown the Broncos put on the Cowboys about a month ago too.
Oh, God damn it! I know. Hopefully tonight they'll take the Saints to town. But
that Taysom Hill's playing quarterback for the Saints. This should be exciting. And is Ezekiel Elliott in or out? This is Sports Talk with Gabe and Andy on FM.
As far as I know, he's in. I know Amari Cooper's back. So, but the biggest thing is the coach is on COVID, so he's not there.
Oh, really? He's a great coach. Yeah. I don't know why the Packers got rid of him.
Mike McCarthy, and maybe you can answer this, because I was actually talking to my buddy Dennis yesterday, who's a Packers fan, about this.
Mm-hmm.
Can a coach now, because the coach he tested positive, he's not showing any symptoms, he just tested positive, so he's not allowed to attend the game. Can he still coach from like his house, just watching the game with a headset, or is that not allowed?
I guarantee you this is the answer. The answer is no, because reasons, no good reason. I guarantee you with the technology we have, of course he could coach from remote, because the offensive and defensive coordinators, they coach from the box upstairs through the headset.
I know.
Why can't he just do a headset on his couch eating chips?
That's what I'm talking about. So anyhow, we'll see. But yeah, I've been Cowboys since I was a little kid. Since the Roger Staubach days, I've been a Cowboys fan. So.
I was born in Colorado, grew up there, parents divorced, moved to San Diego when I was 8, went back to Colorado for college. So when you live in Colorado, you are a Bronco fan. I think the Steelers, the Cowboys, and the Broncos have the most intense fan bases. You go year round in Colorado, orange and blue everywhere, bumper stickers. Everyone is a
Well, see,
thing. John Elway could be the governor of the state like that, you know. So
I grew up in the Washington D.C. area, so you'd think I'd be a Redskins fan, but
oh,
you're one of two things: you either love them or hate them. And my dad hated them, so I found another team. So
all right. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. If you're about 10 years older than me, the Cowboys, didn't they win some in the late 70s? They beat the Raiders and they beat, right?
They won a couple. They've won 5 total. So it was a couple in the 70s, and then they did the 3 in the 90s.
Right.
And then they've sucked ever since. So
all right. Well, I do think you know, it's been great hearing like kind of how you got into illustration and all that. Do you want to talk about First Man at all? Or do you want to tell more about your origins in comics? Or
no, I mean, I can wrap that quick. You know, Bart I went up to DC with Bart in March of 91. I met a few editors, showed them my work, and they gave me some pointers, you know, gave me critiques basically. And they basically said, come back in a couple of weeks with some more stuff. I'm I'm not joking. I have OCD and I also have ADHD. So when somebody tells me do this in a specific amount of time, I do it. So I actually worked up new samples, went back a couple weeks later, and the editors that I saw before were impressed. They were like, "Oh man, you literally came back in 2 weeks." And I was like, "Yeah, well, you said work up new stuff and come back in 2 weeks." So I did.
I met with similar in that regard, like just getting the work done on time and all that. And people are surprised, I guess, because there's a lot of deadline blowers in this business.
Yeah. So anyhow, you know, I met with a new editor at that time, and he liked my stuff, and he gave me my first gig. So that's
very cool. And do you want to say what that first gig was?
Well, you'll never find it because it never saw print. But it was I don't know if they. I'll assume you know what this is, but do you know what an inventory story is?
I've done a few of them. Yes, I did a Green Lantern with Keith Champagne and Neil Ward that never came out.
Yes,
but it was really fun. Yeah.
Yes. Remind me about that when we're off stream, and I can tell you something about that. No, I know that. I know that job.
Oh, you know that one. Oh,
well, I'm friends with
I also did one with who's the creator of Teen Titans? Wolfman.
Yeah.
And then an Italian guy. I can't remember his name. It was super, super Italian. Sergio something or other. I did it in like 2011 for Mark Chiarello. And they finally did it for Brian Cunningham like 3 years ago. But we did it in like 2011. We did like half of it. It never came out. And then like in 2020 or 19, it finally came out as a graphic novel. And I ended up not being able to color it. They recolored it because I was too busy at the time. So I colored like the first 20 or 30 pages. I don't know if it was 100 pages or 80. And it was gorgeous work. And it was a book that Marv Wolfman had wanted to do about old school Superman, like 70s, like everyone was dressed like 70s and stuff. It was really fun. And I was really disappointed. I think it was 12 issues or something. It was a huge project. And I was just too busy. So
mine was Suicide Squad. I did an inventory issue of Suicide Squad with John Ostrander. And, you know, they never needed it. So they, you know, the book got canceled soon after. So they never had to print it. So
right. And for those of you in the audience, we're talking about a drawer story, or inventory or drawer story with two names. What that is what it sounds like. You will do an entire comic book, and they just put it to the side for when they need, like a deadline is blown, but they need to put out an issue. They just have these in reserve, and they're like evergreen stories that are kind of out of the current continuity. They're just basic stories that can fit in any moment in time in these characters. So,
yeah, that's it. So they never needed it. So it never saw print. And then it's funny it was like 10 years later, a FedEx showed up and I was like, what is this from DC? I was working at CrossGen at the time. So getting a FedEx from DC was weird. And I opened it up and it was all my art to that issue of Suicide Squad.
Oh, wow.
So
back when you would send in the pages.
Oh yeah.
I did a story for IDW for Gene Simmons' horror anthology, the guy from Kiss.
Oh, yeah.
And part of his contract with IDW that pissed me off is that he got all the original art that the illustrators did. And this is like 2006 or so. So I hadn't been in the business that long. I've been a professional artist since 2000, but in comics, I was barely in it in 2004, 5, 6. So
Right.
I gave all my Gene Simmons art to IDW, and I hate that because it was some of the first stuff I ever drew and had published professionally. So he has it somewhere in some dusty box in his mansion, I'm sure.
Well,
And
that's the way it is with all Kiss. As far as I know, with all Kiss stuff, that's how it is.
Oh, I hated that. I hated that policy so much. I won't say who, but I have a friend who did amazing covers for a Gene Simmons project. He's an amazing painter, this friend. He doesn't like Gene Simmons, and I don't know why. If they're personal or something, I don't know. But instead of mailing the painting in, he took it out to the dumpster behind his apartment and destroyed the painting and threw it in the dumpster. Like, I would rather destroy this painting than give it to Gene Simmons. Oh,
I would see now, if it was me, I would have said I did that and then still had my painting.
Well, this friend of mine is like a very principled person. Like,
I guess
I'm not saying you're not, but he's that kind of guy.
Oh, no, I hear you.
You know, but he's just like, no, if I said I destroyed it, then I destroyed it. It's like, okay, you didn't have to destroy it.
Well, I did work for Marvel on a trading card set where this is like 10 years ago, 11 years ago, where the whole premise was they were going to take the trading cards. It was a story. So, you know, if you had to collect all the cards and then you put them together and 9 cards would form a comic book page.
Okay.
So I think it was like an 8 or 10 page story. And we were told, I didn't ink it. Bob McLeod inked it over me.
Okay.
And we were told that we weren't going to get the art back. And I was kind of like, why not? That's BS. Well, Bob inked it. Bob scanned it and sent it in because this was, you know, just 10 years ago when you would scan stuff. You didn't mail artwork.
Yeah.
So he scanned it. And I said, so Bob, you have all the original art? And he goes, yeah. I said, well, let's split that stuff. So we split it like you normally split, 2/3, 1/3 with the inker. He sent me 2/3. He kept 1/3. We never said a damn thing. So I'm like, they didn't pay any extra to keep the art. So screw them.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I don't want to part with my art. I'm doing Beef Law, my Indiegogo that I'm illustrating writing. I'm keeping the boards for that. I wouldn't sell those. It means too much to me. The only art I will let go of is like commissioned art. I honestly don't understand why Ethan sells his Cyberfrog pages, or if you sell yours. I don't get it.
Oh, I stopped. I sold
so
art.
Important to me to have that stuff forever, you know.
So I sold art from 91 when I got in the business to about 94, 95. And then I was like, I don't want to sell my art. Why am I selling art? So I stopped selling it. So I haven't sold art in a long time. I only sell commissions, and well, that's it. I just sell commissions. So any art that's out there of mine now during this period that you're showing, this is when I was selling art.
What year is this Silver Surfer? And the way you draw figures in that classic Superstar, you're a perfect Silver Surfer artist.
Oh, well, thank you. Oh, this is like 93. So this is like 2 years into the business.
So I was an 8th grader, you know.
Yeah, you don't have to say that. But yeah, so this was like 93. But yeah, so any of my art that's out there now is because the inker sold it. Okay. And I even, you know, obviously now I ink my own stuff, but going back to, you know, when I was working for Marvel and DC in the 2000s, anybody that inked me in the 2000s, because I wasn't selling my stuff, I would contact them and be like, look, if you could give me first dibs, I would appreciate it. So a couple guys gave me first dibs. A couple guys I worked with said, man, you can just have this stuff. So I've got a couple full issues that I drew that I haven't inked, but the inker was like, just take them. And then a couple, like the last book I worked on at DC was Earth 2, and Trevor Scott inked it, but I've never.
I know Trevor. I worked with him in Wildstorm. Sorry.
Yeah. No, Trevor, I asked Trevor, I same spiel. I emailed him. He goes, well, I generally don't sell stuff either. If I do, I'll let you know. So I've never seen any of my Earth 2 stuff for sale. So I assume Trevor still has it all.
Wow.
So.
What a good guy Trevor is. He's such a mild-mannered, like, kind guy. Great family man, too. I worked at Wildstorm the last 3 years. It was open before everything went up to Hollywood. And, well, we know what Hollywood did to comics. But yeah, that was like family Wildstorm. There was about 25, 30 of us there, and it was amazing. But this is your show. Look at this comment here. It says, years back, how do you say that? It's Travco?
It's
Sorry.
Travco.
It's Travco. Years back.
I know him.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Years back, the local comic shop near me had an entire unpublished X-Men comic from Dave Cockrum. Can you imagine? I don't know what the owner ever did with it because I was young back when Cockrum was still with us. Dang, wow. I would love to see that. Do you have the IDW artist editions, the great ones that Scott Dumbier puts together through IDW? You know what I'm talking about?
I've got way too many of them.
I have like 20 of them too. I have the Wally Wood one. That's one of the most rare ones. And it's like twice up, dude.
It's huge.
I have that one. So, but should we get to First Man a little bit? And guys, thank you so much for watching, everyone. It's so fantastic that you're here. I'm going to put again into the chat Andy's YouTube. Okay, put that in there right now.
Yes, I'm 89 away. So everybody watching, please go subscribe to my channel. Right, 89 subscribers away from being 1,000, and that's the magic number. So.
Right, and I would tell the Comicsgate fans, remember, Comicsgate, it belongs to you guys. You know, this Comicsgate is going to be as good as you make it. You know what I mean? And you make what you do when you support us, when you trust us, you change people's lives. You know, Andy and I and the other guys, we left that mainstream because they weren't good to us, and they pick on you guys, and that's a bunch of BS. You know, calling the fans racist and bigots and all this stuff, and then calling us that, and like, you know, we stuck up for you guys by walking away from that. And I could have just stayed there another 20 years and retired. They loved me at DC and all that because I never said anything political. They had no idea what I thought. And you know, Andy the same. So if it wouldn't be a problem, please subscribe to Andy, and I'm going to throw in the link to First Man there. Let's talk about First Man because we've been going for almost an hour. So let me throw up a nice image of First Man real quick. Do I have a cover? My daughter helps me out with this. She fetches a bunch of imagery for me. There's a cover right here. So can you give us the 30-second who is First Man and why would it be exciting for someone to buy this?
Well, it'd be exciting. Before I get to who is First Man is a superhero, obviously. It's the way I've always loved superheroes when I was growing up. I grew up during the Silver Age in the 70s and the Bronze Age of comics in the 80s and 90s, where it's just good, fun superhero stories. I always like to say lots of action, adventure. My book has some humor in it as well. I basically took aspects of Spider-Man, Peter Parker, which is the humor. I took aspects of Captain Marvel, the Jim Starlin stuff from Marvel's Captain Marvel, and then aspects of Shazam, threw it into a bowl and mixed it up. And the reason I say it's Shazam is because First Man is Luke Henry. Luke Henry is a college kid who was gifted with this essence, and this essence literally, there's no magic word, but he transforms from a 5'10" college kid into the 7-foot beefcake guy, First Man, the hero that we all know and love. And so that's the Shazam part. The Captain Marvel part is the cosmic type stuff. So Volume 1 took place more in space. There was this big bad guy named Monarch who was trying to collect all these essences. The essence that inhabits First Man, there were 10 of them spread across the universe or the galaxies, cosmos, whatever. Monarch was trying to collect them all over the different worlds. And the last one he had to get was the one that inhabits Luke Henry. And if you want to know why that didn't happen, you would have to get Volume 1, which you can get as part of the campaign for Volume 2. All right. And the link is in the chat, guys. So again, I mean, this sounds fantastic. And you've heard for the last hour, Andy give his credentials as not just an artist, but as someone who loves comics and loves the fun of it, the excitement. Andy's not going to be preaching to you politics, left wing, right wing, whatever. This is just fun. You have it's a fun superhero book. There's literally there's no politics in it whatsoever. There's no SJW stuff in it whatsoever. And I hate that word, but it's such a part of the lexicon now. It's just a fun superhero book. In Volume 2, Luke Henry's back on Earth. He is confronted by this Fourth World Foundation, which is these 4 people. Wait, you got to look in the camera and say it for us the real Andy Smith trademark way. look at these 4 people.
There
There
we
they are.
go. We love that.
And they make up the Fourth World Foundation. They create a being called Adonis, and they basically lure First Man in. They rope him in with what he believes are good intentions, but they're not. And the villain of the book is this Adonis character, this artificial intelligence that the Fourth World Foundation created, and tries to steal First Man's power to power it up, because that's like the last ingredient they needed. And the title's called Learning Curve because he's back on Earth. He's only been First Man for 3 weeks to a month at this time. He's a freshman in college. His mom and dad, who he still lives with, are the only ones that know that he is First Man and can change into this superhero. So he basically has them to lean on. And that's the thing. It's like, for people that are parents like Gabe and I, you don't have to be, you can, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. You can give your kid advice from your life experience that like First Man's a superhero. There's a part in the book where he's really beat down physically, emotionally, mentally. And he has this talk with his dad. And yeah, his dad's never been a superhero, but his dad, like every person, has had to face adversity. So he's able to give him advice from his life experience on how to kind of tackle what he's going through and how to push through it, basically. Because that's what you have to do. You get an obstacle in your way, you got to just push through it. Right. And so that's what his dad's tries to do in the story as well. So there's some nice relationship stuff in there, along with the superhero stuff, of course. And that's basically what First Man is. It's a fun superhero tale. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but when I was growing up reading comics, I was talking to Bart about this one day, and we kind of noticed in the heyday, because Bart's only a little bit older than me, not too much. Right. So we grew up reading some of the same stuff. And we noticed that, and this isn't the case anymore, it seems like, but back then you have this 2/3, 1/3 in a comic. And what I mean by that is you'd pick up an issue of Spider-Man, and 2/3 of it, so let's say it's a 21-page book. That's how long they were when I got into the business. Right. You'd have 14 pages of Spider-Man stuff, and you'd have 7 pages of like Peter Parker stuff. Right. But they'd be interspersed. So it wouldn't just be 14 and 7 or 7 and 14, it would mix and match. Right. But to me, that's almost perfect, because I'm buying a book called Spider-Man. I'm not buying a book called Peter Parker. So look, nothing against Peter Parker, but I don't want 14 to 20 pages of Peter Parker and only 2 to 5 pages of Spider-Man. Right. Blake Snyder was that great screenwriter. He passed away, but he wrote that book that so many writers refer to in Hollywood called Save the Cat. And one of the points he talks about in screenwriting is to deliver on the promise of the premise. Right. And it's like the premise is a superpowered teenager with spider powers. So when you make the book, you need to deliver on the promise of that premise. Right. Not Spider-Man sitting around doing regular human stuff too much. Like you're exactly right. That 7 pages of regular Spider-Man stuff, you need that to balance out the superheroes, to make the superheroes stand out more in contrast. So you're exactly right. That's a good contrast. And the other thing too is, and this was still happening in comics back when you got in, basically with like the X-Men in the early 90s and stuff, but it's really gone away in the past decade or so. Dude, when I grew up, I'd pick up a issue of the Avengers, right? And you'd have the Avengers team. So let's say Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, and the Wasp, right? And they'd be in Avengers Mansion, and they'd just be shooting the shit. No heroics, just shooting the shit. But guess what? They were all in costume. Right. But nowadays, that scene, they would be in t-shirt and jeans and ordinary clothes, because that's more real. Right. I'm not buying a comic book for real. I want to see my heroes in costume. If Captain America's drinking a cup of coffee at the kitchen table, put that son of a bitch in his Captain America costume. Right. Agreed. Yeah, I think that whole thing where they have a real insecurity with vulnerability, a lot of these postmodern SJW writers.
and they're very concerned about external validation from other people. So they don't write to say, I love art and this is how you make good art and good story. They write to say, hey, everyone, did I write the cool thing? Do I have the correct opinion? They're cowards.
Right.
Artistically, they are cowards. They're too afraid to go out there and plant their flag in the ground and say, this is my art. You can like it, you can hate it, but this is my self-expression. It's just all this, ooh, validate me. And that's pathetic, and I think, and you're right. That's what's leading to that sitting around crying and talking and, ooh, let's go out for ramen and be quirky. And can you imagine Ethan read that thing on Kings on Monday night where Donnie Cates wrote that horrible Venom dialogue.
Oh, that Venom stuff,
existential crisis. Imagine 12-year-old me who's blown away by X-Men reading Venom having a mental breakdown. I would never want to read comics.
Right.
I'd be like, this isn't fun to a 12-year-old. I'm a kid. I don't understand what this guy's really talking about.
Right.
It was so whiny. And again, it's validation seeking behavior. It's terrible. So I love this, by the way. I love this.
Thank you.
I don't know if you guys know in the chat, maybe some of you are younger, but there were these Hostess cake, the Hostess fruit pies you can get, those horribly unhealthy, delicious snacks. There were always ads for them, like in the 70s and 80s in comic books. And Andy brought that parody ad back. So that's another great thing you're going to get if you get first. I didn't know that. That's hilarious, man.
Oh, yeah. There's one in the first issue as well, first volume as well. There's also one. I love them. So I do them in a throwback. I try to channel my inner John Buscema. And then I was
going to say, I see that John Buscema mouth there in 1, 2, 3, panel 4.
Yeah.
The foreground character. That's a total Buscema Kirby kind of face.
So I try to channel John Buscema. And then, of course, I go with flat color, do a little newsprint.
Right.
Texture to it and stuff. So
yeah, that is
every book has that too. So yeah.
Oh, people can get a head sketch. Fantastic.
Yeah. So if you want to get a head sketch, it's the same size. It's 7x10. So it fits right in a bag and board.
Now, some people are saying to themselves, and I agree with them, money's tight right now, Andy. For some people with all this crazy inflation and all that. How much longer will this campaign be open if someone is saying, well, they want to back you, but they need to wait a week or two?
Oh, it'll be in demand until there is kind of a system that we do when we do the Indiegogo campaigns that most of us adhere to, which is the campaign generally stay in demand until after it's fulfilled. And then it usually I close mine down right before I launch the next one.
Uh-huh.
So this will stay in demand. I'm fulfilling for May of next year because I'm still drawing the book. So it'll stay in demand until at least June or July next year. So.
Okay. Yeah. So people can get through the holidays because I know money's even tighter at the holidays. A lot of people buying presents and traveling. So if you have to wait till after then, we'd like you to do it sooner. But if you have to, that makes sense. I understand. Everyone's situation is unique. Look at this comment here. That parody ad would make a great mini print. I think that's a cool idea.
Yep. Yeah. It's something to think about. I've got, there's still stretch goals that I can reach and whatnot and do stuff like that. So
now this is a thing that all of us are going to have to deal with as Indiegogo people, this comment, and it's beyond your control, Andy. I don't, obviously this person in the
now
chat
there is, and I agree. It sucks that how much the shit, like, trust me, when I did fulfillment on the first one last year, and, most of us use stamps.com and you type in, the UK and you're just like, Jesus. But I will say this, obviously this is a good selling point too. If you were to back it and then say, but I never got the first one, so I'm going to back the tier that has the first one, or I want to get the head sketch or the figure sketch as well.
Right.
The shipping cost doesn't really change.
Okay.
Because the weight doesn't change that much. So I totally get going to the UK for backing just one book. But if you were to back volume 1 and volume 2, then the shipping is pretty much the same, but you're getting two things. You know what I mean?
Right. Now,
so it kind of helps even it out a little bit.
Yeah. So that's something to consider. And this isn't something you and I could figure out in the next minute. It would take some research and talking to other Comicsgate artists. But I've wondered, if you could do printing in Europe, like you could have it printed in America and ship it to all your American customers, but then maybe there's a printer in Europe, you send them the files and they can distribute there. I wonder if that works or if that's stupid.
No, it's not stupid. I mean? We can talk about it off stream because we have had those conversations.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay. Yeah. If there was enough demand and you're sending something to Sochi, Russia, maybe you want to print it over in Germany or Romania or something and distribute it in Europe. I don't know. It's just a thought I had.
Oh yeah, no, I hear you. The tough part is the tough part with doing it that way is because you're splitting the printing. So obviously, you know this. The more you print, the more reasonable it is for us to do the stuff.
Right.
But
The
if you're
cheaper it
like,
is, the
well,
more
I've got
print.
30 people in the UK, your print cost just went up a
Oh,
lot to print 30 books, by themselves.
right.
But
Oh,
there's
here's
other things we've talked about too. So
maybe you talked about this. I think what Randy Howell is saying here, can you send the books to a European fulfillment center? So maybe you, Andy, mail all 50 or 100 European books to one place and then they split it out. That's
right, and
something.
that's kind of, without getting into too much detail because nothing's ironed out. We've
Uh-huh.
kind of approached saying, well, what if we hook up with somebody over there, bulk ship, say the 30 books over, and
Right.
then pay out a fee to them to handle the mailing,
Okay.
which would save
Yeah.
money and stuff. So there's different things we've kind of talked about, but haven't really nailed down yet. So
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, I did Bigfoot Bill too for Doug, and I mailed a copy to my flatter, and he lives in General Santos City in the southern Philippines.
oh
Never
wow.
got it. It was stolen. He told me the local post office like steals shit and stuff. So I was very upset about that because it cost me like $80 or something to send it to him. And he said he never got it. And I also sent him a bunch of memorabilia from San Diego Comic-Con. And he had to like fight for that one and dig around and
Oh,
ask a bunch of questions. So that's another thing to think about. Like in some remote places, maybe it's hard to ship stuff. At least to my guy in the Philippines, it worries me when I've sent him stuff.
right.
So
I
yeah.
shipped
Oh,
something to Belgium back in July. And this is no joke. Last week, I got it back, returned to sender, right?
crazy.
But here's the thing, it made it all the way to Belgium. And then for some reason, the post office over there was like, nope, and sent it back.
Oh, he hated
And there was
first
no
man, the
reason given.
postmaster.
So I know for a fact I paid enough in shipping weight wise because I reweighed it, because I contacted the guy and said, dude, I don't know what happened. Is this your address? And I sent him what I typed out. And he goes, yep. And I said, all right, I'm going to try to resend it. So just let me know if you get it. So I resent it because there was no reason given.
That sucks.
So,
I just keep hearing that Elvis song in my head. Return to sender.
that's right. Return to sender.
Right. I love Elvis. Jeez.
Oh,
Zebulon Pike says, please hand deliver each order in person.
I will do that if you live in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Right. And then we
I'll
got
meet you at
this
a
one.
coffee.
DLV is saying South Africa is the same way. Amazon stopped delivering there a few years ago.
Wow.
Goodness.
That's crazy. I wonder why they stopped.
Yeah, that's awful. I guess people stealing packages or something. That's terrible.
I don't know, man. That's weird.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we got a great overview here. Is there anything else you wanted for the fans? Because I've got to get to drawing and inking some beef law stuff today. Very exciting because I want to have something to show on Kings on Monday. Is there anything?
Me too. I'm working on. I took a break from the latest page I was working on. Just please back First Man. It's like Gabe said. We all broke away to do our own thing, and it's because of you guys and your support that allows us to do this. So please give it a back if you haven't already. If you want to reback it, go ahead. There is a beautiful t-shirt. And then, of course, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm only 89 away from 1,000.
It's undersubbed. He's so great. Andy's so great. He's a hard worker, a smart guy, and super talented. He's undersubbed. We got to sub to him, guys.
I would appreciate it. So, and that's it, man. I appreciate coming on. It's great. I love doing this stuff.
Okay, yeah, we should do it again very soon. I put in the chat just now, guys, a link to Andy's YouTube. So click on that, and all you gotta do is hit subscribe. It won't cost you a penny. It'll take you 2 seconds.
Nope, won't cost you a thing.
I put a link to First Man that will cost you money, but you're gonna get a great product when you back it.
Right.
So, and you're making dreams come true. You guys are literally, think about this, guys. You're changing lives. You're changing my life. You're changing Andy's life. You're changing our wives and kids' lives by backing our books. So we're not going to let you down. We're going to do our best work of our careers, and we're going to give you everything we got, guys, to entertain you. So I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you so much to my guest, Andy. I'm going to not boomer it, and I'm going to actually end the stream. I've ended the show before by leaving the show myself, and the show was just on for like 20 minutes. Yesterday I came in and my mic was off for like the first minute. So you do get free comedy on my show.
There you go.
So, anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. Hit the like and then share this out. Please do that. It'll take you 2 seconds. Just click on that like, share the link to this so more people can see it later in the day. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.